Hi, I can't believe it's almost time for your midterm. I mean, absolutely, it's been a fast start to this semester. Um, broadcasting, is really quite a cool thing. It brings together a lot of the skill sets that we've been talking about, that many of you and I talked about in our last class, Writing for Communication. Um, Not exactly all writing, though. As we continue to move forward, you'll be talking about different things. I'd like to review some of those things that you've been turning in and maybe look at them with a little bit of an eye towards what you've been working on and then what we'll continue to work on in the next 5 weeks of this class. So, that said, I hope your weather's a little bit less crazy wherever you are, whether you're in Southern California, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're on the East Coast. Here in Houston, it's been a little crazy. Came back from Portland with absolutely cold weather and gray skies for an entire week. This past week, the skies got a little bit more clear. It turned a little warmer, and then about 2 days ago it started raining again. So I'm not sure where the sun has gone. I'm turning absolutely pale. My daughter's getting married in 1 month, so this is wedding grand central around these parts. I'm actually wearing a sparkly shirt today, as you can tell, because I had things to try on and I needed to look a little sparkly, is what I was told. But all that to say that I hope that life is well for you and that you can focus when you can and find blessings as well when you can. So that said, let's take a look, I think, first, to get it off our plate, at just a few notes that I've taken about some of the things that you've turned in, some of the projects, which were wonderful, by the way, that have really just demonstrated some of those basic things that we have been talking about: news gathering, reporting, the importance of network news, cable news, podcasting, broadcasting, and so forth. What I'd like to talk a little bit more about today is the collection of that data and the information and how you present it. Presentation is king. I've been writing that down to remind myself and to remind you, to remind myself that I needed to remind you of that. Presentation is king. Let me give you the story of the Oreo cookie if I haven't given it to you before, if you haven't heard it. It's a very simple concept, especially for those of you who are public relations majors, but even those of you who are journalism or any other major, really. The Oreo cookie syndrome, I'll call it, is a very basic philosophy. You have what is a very good cookie. I mean, not very many people don't like Oreos. If you're one of those, please, in your mind, think of something that you really like. But the Oreo cookie has a nice, light, somewhat light feeling. It has a great wafer. You put that together, and especially if you dip it in a little milk, the possibilities are endless for that Oreo cookie. Now, if you take that Oreo cookie and you put it in a brown paper bag, and you put it on the shelf in a grocery store, and you push it all the way to the back, nobody's going to have a chance really to see and taste and have the benefit of that Oreo cookie. However, some brilliant mind came up with the idea that they needed to package that Oreo cookie, and since then a lot of other cookies have followed suit, and you see where I'm going with this. They packaged that Oreo cookie in a cellophane type packaging that allowed us to see right through and see the Oreo cookie itself. So when we go to the grocery store, typically, and they like to put those things on the end caps to remind us that we need them or don't need them. But we can go right to the package, pick it up, and sometimes they have the double stuffed or the holiday kind, and put one, or they may have the 2-for-1 special. My husband calls them the BOGOs. And buy one, get one free. And put them in our cart. We absolutely know what we're going to get. It's in an attractive package, and we reach right for it. That is our goal. When we disseminate information, when we communicate information, our goal is to do it in a way that is free from distractions, that lets people get right to the heart of what we're trying to communicate, and allows them to be able to pick it up and have an idea of what it's about. Absolutely, they're not tasting it, but they have an idea of what it's about. There's not a lot of mystery. It's not shrouded in mystery. We're not trying to use a lot of fancy language or an overkill on the graphics or an inappropriate wrapping like a brown paper bag. We're not hiding it at the back, making it difficult to get to, which would be elongated sentences or inappropriate syntax. We're not, when we're asked to turn in, say, a paper or to write answers out, we don't turn in, say, a Q&A. So we turn things in an appropriate format, whether it's for me as an instructor or whether we're asked to do that, fill out an application for a prospective employer, whether we're asked to present a white paper, which is a paper of rationale for an organization, whether we're asked to write a rationale for, a company and or a grant. We're trying to get a grant, and so we write something. So there's all sorts of formats that we're asked to present information in. Now, PowerPoint. Let me talk about PowerPoint for a minute and VoiceThread. When you, and I'm glancing down, I'll let you know, onto my laptop. This is quite an elaborate system that I have set up in order to speak to you. I have about, if I haven't explained before, in my home office, for those of you who are not familiar, I have 2 huge monitors. I think they're 24-inch or something. And then I have this little old-fashioned Apple computer because it has a great camera on it. And then right below it, I actually have my new Mac laptop that I purchased in Portland because my older one, the screen started fizzling out on me the last few months, and so it finally kind of went dead. And I was like, oops, that's not good when I have classes to teach and things to do while I'm gone. So needed to go out and get a new one, and there was an Apple store literally around the corner from our hotel. But all that to say, PowerPoint is another delivery system, and so is VoiceThread. So when you're putting information within those delivery systems, this is not just a method of relaying that information back to me or to your classmates. It's actually an exercise in allowing you to demonstrate another method of delivery of information, another way to communicate. And actually, when you think about it, those are things that for the future, you can actually save those projects for prospective employers, for prospective people that you might want to do an internship with. So those are projects that you could use to your benefit. So listen up, and I'm going to give you a few tips on how to prepare those well. PowerPoint, like any other system, is a delivery system. Graphics. You need to, if you have not incorporated the use of graphics into your PowerPoints, pay attention to and incorporate graphics. If you need to take and spice up your graphics, clean up your graphics, make sure that your graphics are not pixelated, use another system before you actually place your graphic into your PowerPoint, like Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that. to clean up your graphic and make sure that it's not full of, it's not pixelated or so forth. Consider your audience when you choose your template. Looking through dozens and dozens of programs and invitations and so forth, I'm aware, even in PowerPoint, there's a variety of templates. And I'm aware, and I'm very similar to you in that, and many of you, I like to be a little bit different. I don't like to be, and hardly anybody likes to be, a rubber stamp of anybody else. And especially if you're one of those native Californians out there, you probably have a little streak of originality in you, even if you're not a native Californian. I think we should all strive to be a little bit original, don't you? Well, choose something that reflects your audience or your intended audience that you believe that you're delivering the information to. Pick somebody in your mind that you're going to be speaking to and think, is this the best template? And is it going to be the best template for the information that I'm trying to convey as well? Look through some of the scenarios, some of the templates of the PowerPoints, and decide what is going to fit best. Now, I know this is a little bit on the sober side, but I do that even when choosing, well, whether it's a professional PowerPoint that I'm going to present, or even in as much as I'm choosing a template for something like the slideshow that I did in iPhoto that I prepared for my younger brother's memorial service a few weeks ago. Look through several different scenarios to see which one would best fit the 5 or 6 songs and the specific pictures that I knew that I had that I was going to incorporate into that presentation. Okay, so also colors. Colors are very important. Colors tell us a lot about voice. Learn a little bit about colors. Go on the internet, Google. We all Google. Do you want to use bold colors? Do you want to use softer colors, pastels? All of those colors tell a different story. If you're talking about communications, broadcast, radio, look at the colors that are used for that and why. I'll let you discover that. And choose fonts appropriately. Appropriate fonts. You don't want to use Comic Sans when you're talking about broadcast and radio and so forth. So choose those things well. Power colors, not weak colors. On your slides, decide when is and how many are too many details or not enough details. I saw a little bit of that. Some were so overladen with details that it was difficult to read the slide. And then some had not enough details. Are you summarizing and paraphrasing? Are you just repeating everything from the text? Now, I know, there is that plagiarism thing, and you need to be careful. Don't plagiarize. Even your textbook, don't plagiarize. When your assignment says, from the text or cite the text, that just means at the end of the paragraph that you have summarized or paraphrased or quoted from, that you have included a citation in APA style. And if you don't know what that means, you should look it up. And I don't mean to be patronizing to you. I sincerely mean that. If you don't know what it means, look it up. Because it's important. It's important that you don't plagiarize inadvertently or indirectly. But that if you don't know what that means, either look it up or ask me. Simply email me. I typically respond to email pretty quickly. There is the occasion that if you email me midnight your time, that means it's about 2 or 3 in the morning my time, depending on whether we're not on daylight savings. Usually about 2 o'clock in the morning my time, which means I'm probably most likely in bed. Usually I go to bed maybe about 1, 2. It's 12:30 right now here. And I may or may not see it early the next morning because I get up pretty early and start on some writing assignments pretty early during the week. If it's on the weekend, there's a bigger chance I won't see it first thing in the morning because on Saturday mornings, a lot of times I have my grandkids over here. They live 4 blocks away. And on Sunday mornings, I go to church. So, there you go. There is pretty much my schedule. So, I will try to get to your email as quickly as possible, though, and give you an answer. And no question is too far-fetched for me to answer. Please let me know if you're having difficulties or you need an answer to a question. I'm here to help. Okay, on those YouTubes, love them. As you can tell, this is my preferred method of speaking with you. And I really wish we could do a go-to-class meeting or a Google Meetings or something because I would love to hear your input back and love to just communicate with you more. But in lieu of that, let's just talk about those YouTube videos. Number one, if you don't know how to do a YouTube video yet, you should. Strongly encourage you to experiment with doing a YouTube video. If you have a very slow internet connection and when you go to upload straight from YouTube, then I suggest you do your video in another format. That's what I'm having to do with this old Apple computer, by the way. I actually have to do this in, what am I doing this in? I'm doing this in iMovie using the camera from the old Mac computer, and then I'll quickly convert this to, I believe it's an MP4. I will save it in Dropbox, or I'll just put it on my main network drive because my house has a network on it, and drag it over to my better computer that has a much faster processor on it. And then from there I'll upload it to YouTube. Very simple. Now I could have just put my desktop or my new laptop computer and loaded straight to YouTube. The problem is when I did that at the beginning of the course, it even had a slower connection. I think that was because I was in a hotel though. But it had a slower connection, and so I had to do YouTube part 1 and YouTube part 2. And that was a little embarrassing. But I frankly, at that point, just did not do the whole thing all over again because it did not save it for me. And I was a little distracted and didn't want to have to splice it all together. But you can do that. It is an option. Okay, so as far as the YouTube assignment, again, presentation is king. We're going to remember that. I think I'll ask you, what 3 words do you remember from this course? Presentation is king. Okay, probably the easiest clue that I can give you on YouTube is just be aware. Be aware. Nobody looks good. Well, I can't think really of one person with a camera stuck up their nose. What I mean by that is, typically the camera needs to be at eye level or a little bit above eye level, mostly because most of the cameras, they are not really even set at eye level. They're set, see how that flashed bright? That was actually my laptop flashing some light on me, so I turned it back on. Most cameras are set a little bit, to go a little bit down. They're at an incline. So, I actually took the computer itself that sits on a little bit of a pedestal, and I put a book underneath it to make it go a little bit higher because I'm kind of tall. My laptop, if I'm using it to have a go to meeting, a WebEx meeting, or I'm using it just to talk to you as a class, I'll either sit with my legs crossed, relaxed in a chair, sitting back, and balance it on my legs, or I will sit with it on my desk and put 2 or 3 books underneath my laptop just to get the camera slightly above eye level. That's where I want the camera. And I will look at myself in the screen and determine where I am and where everything else is in the screen. Like earlier, if you look over, see I'm saying over here, but I mean over here because I'm backwards. If you look over here, I had a whole stack of scarves and things. This is like Wedding Grand Central right now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that looks really sloppy. That looks terrible. That's distracting. I left the wedding book there because I thought, that's kind of interesting. Proof that we're planning a wedding. But it's not really distracting. It's kind of a book. It kind of fits in with the motif of my busy office. Okay, that's what I want you to see. That's all I want you to see, really. Not that there's that much more there. In back of that is kind of a dark area. It's not lit right now, which is a desk. There's a desk there. There's a picture frame on the wall, and then there's an armoire that has mirrors in it, which can be a little bit distracting, which during the day kind of balances out because there's not any bright lights hitting it. Right now there's a bright light hitting it. Slightly distracting. Not nearly as bad. See, it goes dark, so that's not bad. It's not nearly as bad as somebody with a picture frame growing out of their head, you know, a white wall with a clock in the background, somebody's hands constantly fluttering, just constantly right on the screen in front of you, things like that. Just be careful about those things. Typically you want somebody to pay attention if you're talking to your face. If not, whatever it is that you're gesturing to, you want them to pay attention to it. Using your hands is not a bad thing. It honestly, when I talk, when I teach, I love to use my hands. Just be conscientious of where they are in your frame and how much they're going to either draw a person to your eyes when you're talking to them, or whether they're going to detract or add to your video. You should be becoming more and more aware of these things. These are things you'll talk about in chapters 7 and 8 as you become more in tune with how to create a broadcast. Now, I leaned forward, and did you notice when I leaned forward, all of a sudden you were looking in those mirrors and you were catching my monitors. That's part of the reason when we first started, I was actually leaning back and over so that I could cover that distraction. Because that was important to me, that you didn't start out going, what is on her monitors? What is on her screens? What's going on back there? So that we could just relax and talk and not worry about all that stuff in the background. So that's important to do that. Okay. Yeah, and I kind of made a note here. I don't want to see, nobody wants to see your messy couch, your blurry hands, and the noise in the background, dryers going off and things like that. Sometimes you just can't help it. I have a little traffic going on out here. I don't know if you can hear it, but those are the things that people don't necessarily want to see or hear. So try to have a little bit of control, if you can, over those things. Okay, we've been talking for a long time. I've been talking for 23 minutes and 44 seconds. Didn't expect to talk that long. Very quickly, you're going into your midterm. Don't panic. This is not difficult. Do, however, pay attention to your writing. Package this thing carefully. Answer your questions thoroughly. Completely analyze and synthesize the information in every question. That's what your assignment says. That means you synthesize and analyze. What does that mean exactly, to synthesize? Look it up if you don't know what it means. Not really. Synthesize simply means that you think through it logically before you start answering. You don't take the answer straight out of the textbook at all. You summarize the information. You synthesize means you take a few facts, you take an example, and you weave things together. Use good examples. Tell a little bit of a story. But don't just take facts verbatim and just start listing out of your book. number clearly the examples that you're going to answer, and then answer them. Remember, this goes back all the way to the beginning of the book. For instance, I'm not going to give you the answer here, but for instance, number 1 is developing news judgment is critical. Determining what is newsworthy and if it should be covered by a news team can affect every aspect of a news corporation. It is important to develop good news judgment. What are the 4 things to consider to use good news judgment? Define each item and discuss why each point is vital in news judgment. Well, that was something that was discussed at the very beginning of the semester. Page 2. I told you I wouldn't give you the answer, not exactly how it should be written, but page 2 in your green textbook talks about news judgment. So, like I said, some of these go way back. On the other hand, there is another question on the midterm that talks about the sequences, video sequences that affect broadcasts. That is not going to come up until this week's reading. So make sure you read your required text before you do your midterm. Let me repeat that. Read your required text before you launch into your midterm, or else you will be lost. That's my best suggestion. I did want to point out to you that these 2 chapters are incredibly important, not only for your midterm, but these 2 chapters will be the foundation for your ability to create your own broadcast. So these 2 chapters are critically important. You've gone through your news judgment, your values, comparing your broadcast, your McGregor, that's what I thought it was. Your McGregor book is very detailed this week on technology, how to set up how the internet and the satellite, cable networks, what frequencies they use and so forth, which all of that is important background information. But the actual step by step by step of how you script, how you write, how you use news judgment, how all of that kind of comes together to set up that broadcast. Chapters 7 and 8 of your green book are incredibly important. So make sure you give these chapters some really good detailed reading. Page 125 on the green textbook, 4 ways to get organized. Really critical. There's a really good mind map on there with the little circles that give information, kind of like a Prezi in them. Pay attention to those. Those are going to be critical pieces of information that you need to keep and to learn about how to set up your broadcast, which I can't wait, because that is going to be so exciting to see those. Just absolutely. Now, as far as somebody's broadcasts that you can start watching, in addition to all these other broadcasts that you're going to be evaluating, and I'll put a link to a couple of them in your information this week, but Todd Starnes is a good friend of mine. I believe he's a familiar name on campus. I know he's been on campus. I've been on your campus a few years ago. But Todd Starnes is a good friend. He works for Fox News. He actually started out years ago in radio. Then he went to print media. And now he is back in radio at Fox News. But he also does kind of blogging, news broadcast, opinion pieces, but also in news writing. But he also does these things called American Dispatch, which is fairly new, where he goes on, he does what we would call sort of a broadcast podcast almost. Just a quick 2-minute broadcast that's specialized just to him, that he writes. And most of these he writes and produces himself with Fox News, and they put it on his very specialized Todd Starnes Fox News page. So they're fascinating, and they last, like I said, under 2 minutes. So give yourself a treat and watch a couple of those to see how a real pro can churn something out in less than 2 minutes that typically is full of wit and wisdom, and it's fact-checked and refers to a variety of interesting information. So there we have it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, text me. If you're, and you can reach me, call me, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you and seeing your midterms at the end of the week and your additional projects. Have a great week.